Okay, we are live.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, well, hey everyone. Thank you for joining Pandia Health today on a special live. We typically do lives on Tuesday, but today is a special one. We actually have a guest, one of our influencers. Her name is Jeanne Marie Pastrano. And so she is a mother of two. She's actually down below. I think am I on the top left for all of you?
You are on my top left, correct?
Yeah, cool. So we have Jeanne here, mother of two, also a small business owner of a shop called Leanne.shop. Leanne.shop. Go check it out. And so she's joining us today with Dr. Yen. You all already know Dr. Yen. She's always on here, gives the best advice. And so we are going to discuss and celebrate Filipinx Heritage Month and National Women's Small Business Month. And so we kind of want to discuss the differences in birth control across the world. Jeanne has really great experiences that she has gone through, just getting birth control, and then answering some questions there. And this is kind of going to be a discussion. Any of our followers, feel free to ask and comment below. Oh, before we get started, CJ, woo! Is saying hi. Hello, CJ. And so before we begin, and I think I might have a little glare on me. Okay, before we begin, I just want to remind everyone to please use Jeanne's code, Jeanne5, for $5 off your online doctor's consult with Pandia Health at pandiahealth.com. And make sure you follow her. Her social media tag is down below. So follow her on Instagram, check her out and show some support. So with that being said, Jeanne, can you kind of give us an intro of yourself and what do you do for a living?
Sure. So my name is Jeanne Pastrano, and I am juggling a bunch of things for a living. I have a corporate job. I'm in sales for a media financial company. So aside from that, I recently launched my online shop, like you mentioned, Leanne.shop, last August 1st. So that's the most exciting thing for me recently. It's a clothing store, definitely sticking to more of the neutrals and the classic style. So please check that out. And alongside that, I have, of course, started to engage in being an influencer and, not just recommending the products that I sell in my shop, but also products that I love outside my shop and just my day to day.
Nice. And so I think when I first met Jeanne, she was telling me that she had a different experience getting birth control. And so can you kind of describe what the experience of getting birth control was here versus in the Philippines, and how does that look like?
Yeah, I'm already laughing because just recalling how I got my birth control is very funny to me now that I'm an adult. Well, I wasn't very young. I was 19, so I was of age when I started to explore that birth control and all that stuff. So I was literally just in a car. This was back in the Philippines, so for everyone who's watching, I was in a car after a night out with my girlfriend, and she was, that was the topic of conversation, and she was like, "This is what I use. This is the brand. This is how you use it, and you should use it because And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So the next day, I went to the pharmacy and got myself a pack. That's how easy it was in the Philippines.
Wow.
And now that I'm an adult and I'm a parent, I'm like, I didn't even have any guidance whatsoever. Good thing that, the brand worked for me. I had no side effects or whatsoever, but just looking back, it's crazy. And here when I moved, which was, only about 6 years ago, so I've already had my kids and all that, definitely more mature. It's a lot harder. You have to go see your doctor. You have to go through the process of a checkup and have that conversation. until you get the right prescription for you, which is good because you're talking to a doctor, a professional who would know and who would answer all your questions and who would recommend something that would best fit you. So I wish I had that, but then.
Yeah. That's interesting because I know with me, so I don't know if you're comfortable with saying what brand you use, but I actually used to use Sprintech. And so the thing with that is that I used to I actually just got breakthrough bleeding. It was so funny. I was telling Dr. Yen, I was like, I got breakthrough bleeding. I hate it. I don't know why this is happening. And Dr. Yen always has like this, she does a lot of research and also is very like, making sure that we get the best birth control for our body. And so, Dr. Yen, like, do you have suggestions for someone that might be using like Sprintech or I don't know, Jeanne, if you want to share the one that you're using? And
I was using Yasmin, by the way.
Yasmin?
Yeah. So, I think it's really important for anyone trying birth control to know that there's 40 different types out there. There's 7 or 8 different progesterones, and those are the ones that are causing what I call the man side effects, but also the breakthrough bleeding side effects. And then there's like 2 or 3 different levels of estrogen. So just to get the estrogen thing out of the way, if you're under 30, you want at least 30 micrograms of estrogen, because if the estrogen's too low, then it's not good for your bone density, because from like age 15 to 30, you're putting on your bone density. And if the estrogen's too low, then you're kind of like an anorexic, malnutrition, not enough estrogen to get on that calcium. And then for the progesterones, we used to put everybody on Sprintech. Norgestimate is the generic name of the progesterone in there. Some people may know it as Esteria or Triloesteria or Triesteria, or there's Mononessa. There's so many different names for the generics. And in fact, Sprintech is a generic. The original was orthotricycline. Anyway, and so that one we used to put everybody on, and it's been shown in Caucasians to do well, but we are obviously not Caucasians. And I, as a physician, personally used it because it had such wonderful, research saying it was such a great drug. And I kept trying and trying, and I kept getting breakthrough bleeding. And I'm like, I'm a doctor. I know how to take medicines at the same time every day. What's wrong with this medicine? And so then I had to go through like 3 different medicines until I could find one that works. And then after now, there's more new stuff. And looking at the research again, there's another one called desogestrel. So we found that if you want to skip your periods, desogestrel is better. With Sprintech, there's more likelihood, or Norgestimate, there's more likelihood of breakthrough bleeding. And anecdotally, we found that Asians, Latinas, and Blacks did better on the desogestrel. And we used to start people up on Sprintech if they didn't want to skip their periods, but because there was a price difference. The desogestrel was more expensive than the Norgestimate. But now we know that now with all the generics, they're the same price. And so now we just start everybody up on desogestrel unless it's a Caucasian female that doesn't want to skip her periods. Then I'll put her on the Norgestimate. And then Yasmin and Yaz, we save for like bad, evil acne. And we also ask if they can drink 8 glasses of water a day.
Oh my gosh, you don't.
Yeah, so you should drink water, because particularly my specialty is adolescent medicine, so teenagers and young adults. And so a teenager in high school doesn't drink much water because the bathrooms are disgusting and she doesn't want to go pee. And so, but if you give her Yaz or Yasmin, there's a theoretical diuretic effect, which makes you pee. And if you pee and you don't drink water, then you get headaches. And that's like another irritating thing, is a teenager with headaches. So if a teenager comes in with headaches and the doctor doesn't ask what birth control pill you're on, or the doctor prescribes Yaz or Yasmin generic, which is drospirenone, then the young person could get worse headaches, or you could bring out headaches. So I'm like, if you can't drink 8 glasses of water, I don't want to do the Yaz or Yasmin because I don't want to precipitate headaches.
Wait, you know what? I know I'm not a young teenager, but you just answered a lot of my whys, like the peeing and the headache.
Yes. And so That's why it's important to have expert care by expert doctors. And so at Pandia Health, we're really proud that we are the only women-founded, women-led. We are the only doctor-led birth control delivery company. And all of our physicians are expert birth control physicians. And I personally, as the CEO, but also as a physician, wrote 2,000 birth control prescriptions over 2 years and saw all the side effects. And so that's how we came up with our data. But even going forward, because I'm the only academic CEO, I am a clinical associate professor at Stanford, I like to look at the research and the data and how does it correlate. And so we're having our customers self-report their ethnicity, because obviously there will be differences between Filipina and Tongan and Hawaiian and Taiwanese. And my kids are half Taiwanese, half Korean, and then mix in some Caucasian. And so we want people to self-report their ethnicity and see how they do on the medication so we can help future women and current women do better. So when you start, we start you on a good one so you don't have to go through weird side effects.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now I know why I'm always going to the bathroom.
Yes. So I would suggest to you, go to Desogestrel.
I'm so scared to switch. I've always used Yasmin, and the one time I tried a different brand, I got pregnant.
Oh, well, I don't think there's no difference. There's no difference in efficacy. There shouldn't be difference in efficacy between the birth control pills. You just got to make sure you switch properly. But the switch is literally just switch one day and go to the next pill. Don't let there be more than 24 hours between any time you take a pill.
Okay, so
and
I did not do that right. Okay.
Or, bad luck, because birth control does fail like 3 out of 100 times.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, everything has a failure rate. And so for me, I always advise people use a hormonal method and condoms. And they're like, you're married. Why would you use condoms? Don't you trust your husband? And I absolutely trust my husband. But I think we women don't talk about things. We women also just suck it up. And so if you have sex and you don't use a condom, then you're left with nasty discharge for the next 24 hours of the other person's creation. Whereas you use a condom, they take it with them and they got off, they enjoyed, I got off, I enjoyed, but I don't leak the other person's secretions for 24 hours. And so condoms, 100%. And then it totally decreases your risk of pregnancy.
Yes, just in case. We always want to pitch, if you're doing heterosexual sex, use a condom just in case, Actually, so this actually brings me into the next question. We had a conversation earlier before we all went live about, the viewing of birth control maybe in like the Philippines versus here. I know, Jeanne, you came here to the US a while back, but I don't know if you have any like recollection of how when you were growing up birth control was viewed, or maybe if there's any cultural differences that you noticed here versus in the Philippines.
Sure. I think it's not just birth control. It's like sex education in general. Like that's just not in existence in the Philippines. It's so sad now that I'm thinking about it. Like there was no sex education in school. And I know here, talking to my friends and like even just watching American movies, that parents have those conversations when their kids get to a certain age. And we don't even have that because it's just a culture thing that, it's a very, I would say, I guess like, what do you call this? Like, I guess it's a religious thing, and the culture, like the kids are not as mature sexually. They don't mature sexually as quick as the Western like culture. And yeah, it's not as liberated as it is here. So they don't even consider having those conversations. So there's no access to sex education. So no one would even think to, oh, should I be on the pill? Unless if like me, I just so happened to have a friend who was, I guess, more advanced than the regular,
more educated.
Yeah. And then, so I got informed, but it's not a general thing.
Do you think like, I don't know if you visited recently, but do you think that it is changing now, or do you think that it's still, or there's potential for change maybe?
I think if there's change, it's definitely because of the access of information through the internet, which is at the tip of your fingers, and like the shows are that are available to everyone. Like Netflix is all, it's so different from when I was growing up. Like you only have access to like very little or few shows. And right now you can literally watch anything and search anything online. And like the social media is just, the influence it brings to these kids, and they can literally just see whatever. And they're following adults, they're following like people older than them, so they probably encounter that. But it's different when it's coming from the school or the parents. So I don't, it's still misguided information, but it's definitely there. And I don't think there's structure to it, if that's your question. Like, I don't think I see that.
There's also that issue in the United States. So New York mandates 1 semester of sex ed, which is a ton, out of your entire high school, just 1 semester. And California mandates, I think before this, they just passed a law for mandatory sex ed, but for the longest time, they mandated, like, they didn't have any mandate. They just had a mandate that if you teach it, it has to be medically accurate and age appropriate.
Yeah.
But the irony was the more liberal places would get it. But the liberal people don't need it because their parents are going to be talking about it. It's the conservative places that need it. And so it was kind of ironic that if you teach it, it has to be medically accurate and age appropriate, which is great. But you should all teach it, because otherwise there's like 50 to 200 different school districts in the state of California, and each one could do and choose whatever way they wanted to go. And these are the 2 most liberal states. So I don't know what the sex ed requirements are in New Jersey. I don't know what the sex ed requirements are in Texas, Kansas, etc. And so it's really important to know what is required as a parent, that your kids are going to be exposed to, and also to make sure that it is medically accurate. And what I love about California being liberal, is the curriculum here includes consent. And I think that's so important. Consent and also enjoyment. And so my favorite kind of sex ed is that in every heterosexual encounter, 30% of women don't have an orgasm. And it's like, if you're not going to enjoy it, why risk pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases? Do other things, heavy petting, mutual masturbation, kissing, whatever, but get the communication such that you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, then I call born again abstinence, right? Just because you had sex doesn't mean you got to do it ever again until you want to. And make sure you enjoy it, because every time the person with the penis gets off, because that's when sex is over, right? When that happens. But if you have a good relationship, then both people should get off. And so I love that they talk about consent, because there's so much sexual assault, and I love enjoyment.
That's great, because I never thought of that, especially for younger girls. Like, they wouldn't even think that you need to enjoy it, because they just want to get it over and done with. They've done it and they don't even understand. But that's good to know.
No, I think like the communication part about sex, I remember when we had sex ed, I went to a Catholic school. It was mainly just reproductive, like, this is your ovaries.
Yeah.
Biology.
I get what you mean.
We all saw, like, the weird images, like the flaccid penis, and then like the drawn ovaries, and then just the pregnancy video that like scares everyone because there's a woman that's in pain, and then you get that, and you don't really get the how do you interact with another person, how do you develop a healthy relationship, how do you communicate with your partner safely. We actually did a previous live with Emma Linda. So she's a health educator for a nonprofit in LA. And so she actually wrote a book actually catered towards like kids, to talk about, if there are signals in regards to anything related to sex. If it feels weird, what does that mean? Because when you're young, you don't really know anything. And like you said, maybe, you know, my parents are also, you know, they're Filipino. So like they didn't really say much to me. And so when you're, I'm not sure, like a kid or even in a teenage years, you don't know how to talk about it. And so
Yeah.
it's like, how early is it to know like when things are not okay or okay? How do you communicate to someone about that, like in a safe manner? And also like when you're old enough or mature enough, how do you engage and have fun doing it, you know? And I think that's really important. And you mentioned also like social media, like digital age, everyone getting information all over the place. I want to give a shout out to all of our you know, website visitors, because we do get people all around the world, even on our YouTube. So we have like the US and Canada, but right after is the Philippines.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we get a lot of followers from the Philippines who watch our stuff. They're actually one of the, like, behind the US people, they're one of the top in terms of people watching the length of videos, because they, you know, they want to learn what's going on. So I'm happy that our information, I'm sure they're probably also happy to see someone like you.
Probably like information, yes, because they don't have it. We don't have it there.
Yeah, we actually have, I want to actually briefly give a shout out to a couple of our patient care advisors who are actually also Filipino. And so they actually, yeah. So CJ, I think she was here. Happy's also here. Hey, everyone. And then we have Rhea, who's like also been commenting true, and like it's taboo in the Philippines to talk about control. And we have Lee, is Lee related to you in any way?
So nice of your husband to come out and hear what we're talking about.
Hello, Lee. Thank you for supporting and watching, you know. And then, so let's get into the next question that I have, which is, you know, we really at Pandia Health, we really try to provide convenient and confidential birth control. And so this is just because a lot of our customers are women like you're saying, you do a whole bunch of stuff. You're a mother, an entrepreneur, a salesperson, and then you also have a husband, a loving husband. And so, you know, what are some things, if you didn't have to pick up your birth control, you know, what are some things you would have been doing by not picking up your birth control? You know, how can this help you? How can our services help women like you?
Oh my gosh, like so many things. Like there's so many things I need to do every day that I could just say all of it. I guess like work out a few more minutes and do the groceries, like stop procrastinating my Amazon returns, and you know, a million other things. Take the boys to their haircut, so a lot. Get my nails done, which I need to do.
Yeah, we calculate women spend about 10 weeks of their lives going to the pharmacy, waiting for the medication, and coming back home. And we're all about hashtag better things to do. Lots of other things to do than to run to the pharmacy, waste 10 weeks of your lives. But also, I coined the phrase pill anxiety. As you get towards that last pill on the 4th week, if you don't get to the pharmacy, there will be a very bad consequence. And women subliminally suffer through this anxiety in the back. I got to get to the pharmacy. I got to get to the pharmacy, right? For 20 to 40 years of our lives. And so that's the point of Pandia Health, is to relieve you of pill anxiety, set it and forget it, let Pandia worry so you don't have to. And that is the number one reason we created this company, to make women's lives easier, make women's lives better.
That's amazing. And yeah, like there was a time when I would have my pills delivered from the Philippines. I just moved here, and then I did not have a doctor, and for some reason someone in the family is always flying back and forth. Like it's always a different person each time. And I waited for a time when no one would come, no one could fly back, and that's when I would get a prescription. But someone always came.
Nice.
And so I always had like a stash of the Yasmin.
Great.
And Yasmin is expensive. In the Philippines it's about $30, which is better because here it's like $200.
Yes.
And my insurance will not take it.
No. Well, there are generics, just so you know, and theoretically, the generics are as good as brand. But for you, maybe time to get off it if you're having the peeing and the headaches.
What's like about it is I still get my period, but it's not a lot. I don't know. I feel like it's my safety net to not. I know I'm not getting pregnant because I see something at least once a month, but it's not annoying. Like
That's
it's
great.
barely there, but it's there.
Yeah. And you can do that with any of the pills, you know. Any pill you can have no periods, or you can definitely have lighter periods. The way I explain it is without birth control, my periods were like 7 days and like 3 to 5 pads a day. But with birth control, it's like 4 or 5 days and 2 to 3 pads a day max, right? And so it's because without birth control, you're growing that lining of your uterus, waiting for an embryo that you're going to have to feed with this bloody, rich endometrium for 9 months. But when you're on birth control, your body's not building that much blood because it's like, oh, she didn't want to be pregnant. And so it's just like this, as opposed to, let's say 10, it's like 2. And that's why so much less blood when you're on birth control.
That's amazing to know that, because I always thought that the bleeding is more of like cleansing. I don't know where I read that. I don't remember.
It is a common myth. It is so many people, so many cultures believe that, but it's not. You aren't losing, like people like, I need to cleanse, otherwise the toxins will build up in my blood. And it's like, no, and no. So the way you look at it is in the old days, and even now, if you were to go to Africa and study the Dogon tribe in Mali, they have 100 periods in their lives. And we in the first world countries have 350 to 400 periods in our lives, because when we have much more nutrition, particularly in America with obesity and all that, as soon as you hit 100 pounds or 22% body fat. And so I had a Vietnamese friend who was always hovering around 100 pounds, 22% body fat. So her periods are all whack. But for the rest of us, easy to get to 100 pounds, easy to maintain 22% body fat. Bam, you get your period. So we get our period at 12 and a half. The Dogon tribe gets their period at 15. They get 8 or 9 periods a year. Again, not that much nutrition. We get 13 periods a year because lots of nutrition. They have 8 or 9 babies. Not saying you should have 8 or 9 babies, but they have 8 or 9 babies. And then they breastfeed for 12 to 18 months. We have 2 babies. We breastfeed for 0, 3, or 6 months. So they're incessantly pregnant or breastfeeding. And then I ask women, how many periods you have when you're breastfeeding exclusively or pregnant? 0. And so we, unfortunately, are incessantly bleeding, because every month we make that lining. Oh, no embryo, bleed. No embryo, bleed. And we do that from age 12 to 26 in the United States, average age of first baby, or 35 for those of us who had to go through more school or it took a while to find our significant other. 20 years of build, bleed, build, bleed, build, bleed. And you don't need to do that. And every time you build, you risk endometrial cancer. Every time you bleed or build or bleed. And then every time you pop out an egg, so if you're not on the birth control pill and you're popping out an egg, we don't know if it's the popping or the healing of the ovary, you risk ovarian cancer. So whenever I meet somebody with a family history of ovarian cancer, I was like, was your mom on birth control? Because if she'd been on birth control for 5 years, it decreases your chance of ovarian cancer by 50%. Because the egg's not coming out every month. And so
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah. And so the Dogon tribe with 100 periods has no ovarian cancer, has no endometrial cancer. Whereas we over here with 350 to 400 periods, we have ovarian, endometrial, and oddly enough, colorectal cancer. And I like to bring that up because I have my prop. You have your uterus and it's surrounded by your colon, right? Your poo-poo tunnel, as I like to call it. And so if it's bleeding every single month, it's exuding unhappy hormones. And the colon's like, oh, she's not happy. I'm either going to run faster or I'm going to run slower. And so 30% of women have poo-poo problems during that time of month, and we don't talk about it. And once somebody says it, we're like, yes, me too, not alone, thank God, because we as women just like suck it up, right?
Yeah.
It's just me, I'm weird, it sucks, nobody wants to talk about it. But again, so that's why I think it's the colon cancer, because you're running this faster so that you have a greater chance of colon cancer. There is a slight risk of breast cancer, but I like to put that in perspective. So the risk of breast cancer, I believe, is 13 out of, is it 100,000 or 200,000? But you compare that to somebody who drinks 3 to 5 drinks a week, their risk of breast cancer is 22 out of 100,000. And so if you cut that in half, if you drink 1.5 to 2.5 drinks a week, which I don't think is unreasonable, you have the same risk as if you take a birth control pill.
Interesting. And thank you for that, because I always thought, like, people, like, as my sister would always tell me, like, is that okay that you've been on the pill for, like, oh my gosh, so long, I guess almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
I know, not really.
Totally
Yeah,
fine.
she was like, is that gonna cause cancer? And then, it makes me think that too. I'm like, should I take a break from it? Because I've been on it for like 12, 13 years.
That is a great question. And the TLDR is no, don't take a break, because you're decreasing your risk of ovarian, endometrial, and colorectal cancer. And the decrease of that cancer far outweighs the little bit increase of breast cancer. Okay. Certainly, if you have breast cancer right now, ask your doctor, because some breast cancer, you actually use birth control to suppress it. Some breast cancer, if you have those hormones, it increases it. So, it's different. Morgan is asking, a great question. Do you want to ask it, Angela, and I'll answer?
Yeah. So Morgan says, what pills are there that allow you to never have a period? I didn't know that was possible with the pill. So common ask question, which one can I use so I can not have my period?
So Morgan, I'm so glad you joined us today. And I'm so glad you asked this, like, one of the top questions out there. So the way the pill works is 3 weeks of hormone, and then the hormone drops, and then 1 week of no hormone. And the 1 week of no hormone is called a withdrawal bleed. It's not a period. It's you forced it because you dropped the hormone level. And anytime you drop the hormone level for 2 days, your body's like, oh, time to bleed. And so this week is totally optional. And it was built in by Dr. John Rock. He was a devout Catholic. And he wasn't a once a week Catholic. He was an everyday Catholic. And then there were 2 other founders that were PhDs. So I'm an MD, and I absolutely respect the PhDs for their research and their science. But the MD told the 2 PhDs, we're going to have 3 weeks of hormone and 1 week of bleeding. And the PhDs were like, why does it have to be every month? Could it be every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year? And they were all men. I'm sure if a woman had been on that team, or if I'd been on that team, I would have been like, no period, no period, no period, no blood, no blood, no blood. But the guys are like, well, maybe women are used to it. And if you don't, they'll think it's unnatural. But mainly, Dr. Rock wanted to get it through the Catholic Church. I always forget that with the Catholic Church, the rhythm method is totally legit. If you don't have sex during your fertile days, that's fine with the Catholic Church. And so he just wanted to make periods regular, and then you could practice the rhythm method perfectly. Oh. And he got it through the nuns. The nuns are cool and liberal. He got it through the priests, very hard to do. Don't know how he did it. And then it got to the Pope. The Pope figured it out, vetoed it. And because of that, Dr. John Rock died a very sad Catholic, because he was hoping to get it through the Catholic Church, and he was so sure that the Catholic Church would go with it. And perhaps if it was this Pope, who's so cool and liberal right now, it might have happened. But with that Pope, it didn't happen. And because of Dr. Rock winning that argument against the 2 PhDs, every method has had a bleeding 1 week out of 4. But that week is totally optional. You can just keep going and choose to have a period every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. I just keep doing it until I forget to take the pill for 1 or 2 days if I go on vacation and I didn't bring my pills, or if it's just crazy month, and I like, oh my God, it's 3 a.m. or whatever, and I didn't catch up or whatever. then I will have a bleed. And so you can have a withdrawal bleed anytime you want, or if you have some breakthrough bleeding and you're trying to get to no periods, come off for 5 days, then you'll have a drop in hormone, you'll have a clean out, and then you can build fresh again, and fresh and stable, because when you bleed, it's instability. And so just like let it bleed. But also the 7 days off is actually too long, particularly for women who are on the heavier side, because the pills were originally 150, 110 micrograms of estrogen. Now they're 30 or 20. So by day 5, 6, or 7, more 6 or 7, women may be having escape ovulation. So this protection against ovarian cancer may be going away, but also your risk of pregnancy, if the egg pops out, is higher. So even if your pack of pills has a week off, I would at least shorten it to 5 days. But again, why bleed at all? I was just on a call about menstruation and menstrual products, and we use 10,000 to 13,000 menstrual products over our 350 to 400 periods. And even though I did confirm tampons are compostable because they're cotton and blood, it just takes a long time for the kind of cotton that they have to compost. So it would be better if we use the reusable cups, or if we use, the panties or whatever. But my argument is, if you don't have any periods, then we're cutting down a lot, both on money and landfill. And for me, I just hate waking up in the morning with blood on the sheets and like, oh my God, did it get through the mattress? Do I have to put a towel? Do I have to put a plastic sheet? I feel like a baby, right?
Yeah.
So to Morgan's question, could it be any brand and then you just keep going?
Yes. And then the other key point, thank you for bringing me back to the point. I love to talk, is that there are triphasic pills. So they have 3 different levels of hormones, and there are monophasic pills, just one level of hormone, and then that week off, which is sugar pill or sometimes iron pill. You want the monophasic, because the triphasic, if you just there's just no reason to doing that. They thought they were mimicking the natural body, but these levels are so super physiologic that it's not anything natural. It's just telling your body, don't pop out an egg, don't do anything, she's pregnant. I think it teases your body into thinking you're pregnant. And so the monophasic is much easier to continue than this kind of thing, and actually they've shown that having one thing, not 3 weeks and then drop, and then 3 weeks and drop, is not as good for diabetes, seizures, asthma, acne. If you can keep stable, and depression, particularly with COVID, stress, you don't want to up and down unless you're trying to make a baby. Just be like, smooth. And particularly, I have teenagers, or soon to be. I have 11 and 14-year-old. There's enough drama in their lives as it is. We don't need to add up and down, random blood, and zits.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there like certain birth control pills that are just 3, and then they don't even have like the placebo week? Is that like a certain type? I mean, I know it's monophasic, but is there like a name to them? Is that specifically for that, or
So that's a great question. There's absolutely 2 or 3 or 4 different, actually it's the same medication. There's just a lower estrogen dose and a higher estrogen dose. And they are packed in 3 packs with none of that sugar week on that last week. And the reason they did it is their original thing was going off patent. So they're like, how do we make money? How do we make money? And so they made this thing such that it was on patent. But now even that's so old that it's off patent and there's generics of it. But even then, recommending if it were my patient or my daughter, that one is known to have more side effects. And so again, I would go with norgestimate if you're Caucasian and don't want to skip your periods. Desogestrel for everybody else. Unfortunately, they haven't made a desogestrel 84 pill pack, which is what the other ones are. And then 1 week of sugar pills. And again, I would cut that down to 4 days of sugar pills. I wouldn't do the whole 7 days, if at all. I would just skip that last pack. But for those people who are paying cash, that exactly 84-day pack is far more economical than buying 3 packs separately and skipping that last week of pills.
I had no idea there was an 84-day pack.
Yeah. So Google Jolessa Seasonal and Introvale, they all have names about,
And we also have like web pages actually for all of those birth control pills. Morgan, if you're still watching, make sure you check out our periods optional page, as well as some of our birth control brand pages where we do kind of talk more about different types of pills. And also really, really quickly, to take like a quick break from that, we had a nice shout out from Justine Camacho Cibico. I hope I'm saying that right. She said, thank you so much for the new information. Thank you for having this talk. So, yes, Morgan's still here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. If you're interested or have more questions, everyone just make sure to check out our FAQs. We also have a lot of other videos up there on our social media, and always comment, like, and subscribe. And also same thing for Jeanne. Make sure you follow her social media. So, I guess to kind of end like the live, Jeanne, did you actually have any specific questions for Dr. Jeanne? It could be about birth control. It could even be about, entrepreneurship, being, owners of businesses. How does that look like? Or even just motherhood, since you guys are both moms.
Sure. Well, she definitely answered a lot of my questions already. The fact that she busted my myth on the cleansing thing, because that made me feel uncomfortable of not having a period. That's why I was uncomfortable of the fact that I won't have a period. So that's why I liked Yasmin, because I had that week that would give me a period. But now you're saying it doesn't even matter because you can just keep doing the Yasmin pack and not get a period, which makes sense. So that's helpful. And I guess on the business side, like, I know Pandia is, I guess, how old? Like
4 years.
4 years. Oh, that's great.
College.
Awesome. So I guess in that angle, my question would be if you have any advice. I know it's a very different space, but and my space is very much saturated, and yours is pretty unique in with regards to being a solution to a specific problem. So if you have any advice on, starting out and basically like spreading the word.
Yeah, no, I am a huge proponent of women supporting women. And so I hope that everybody, when you're choosing what company you buy from, which company you work for, which company you want to recommend to your friends, choose the one that is female founded, female led. And if you have that advantage, plug it on your website. Female founded, female led. And I actually created a nonprofit campaign called FFL, female founded, female led.co. So you can go on that website, you can sign up, and we'll list your company as female founded, female led for women who want to, patronize and support those kinds of companies. And then we made up a little logo. It's the woman logo with a fist on it, and it changes in different colors. So you can either do the one that changes in different colors, you can pick the color you like and put it on your website. And it's a little subliminal message that I'm female founded, female led. Whereas you go to another website and you're like, dude, it's run by a dude, it's like, you know how to like dress women. Why would a man know how to dress women better? Right. Yeah. And a woman, I would hope, would include pockets in everything, because that's my pet peeve. It's like, my husband has pockets in everything and I have no pockets nowhere. And that's why we have to have a purse. Maybe that's it. They're driving the purse thing.
And big pockets, because guys have really big pockets. Women are pockets. I can't put my phone in there.
That is ridiculous.
You can't put anything in your pockets, Too small.
Yes. Whenever I see pockets, I get very excited, especially in like dresses or skirts, because that's kind of the way I dress. But also, putting yourself out there. Both, I know you're working as an influencer, so that is awesome and huge. And then the other is just networking with other women, and saying, hey, I'm here. Let me tell people about you. And why don't you tell people about me? And I love the Madeleine Albright quote, which is, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help women. But she also did the flip side, which is there's a special place of honor for women who help women.
That's very nice. And thank you. I did not really think of that so much, but I do agree because I do love to support female-led businesses. So I should check that site out. And I guess my last question would on the birth control aspect would be, so I do get sick and tired of having to take it every day. Like there are just days where I'm like, can I just stop doing this? It's been too long.
Yes.
But I like the benefits of it, like, birth control and the fact that I don't get 3 weeks worth of period, which I used to before going
Oh
on the
my
pill.
gosh.
It was miserable. Not
Yeah.
every month was like that, but lots of the times were.
That's how I discovered periods optional. Is I'd been on the pill so long, and then I had to get pregnant, and I was like trying to time girl versus boy, but like after having 3 normal periods, I was like, oh my God, this is so much blood. I don't care what gender kid, just get me pregnant and pop this thing out because I cannot bleed another month. And I look at all women, I'm like, how do you bleed every month? This is horrible.
No, I can't. I'm like,
yeah. And so the thing about Pandia Health is we are the only doctor-led company. And as long as I'm CEO and as long as our values hold true, we will always tell you what's best for your health, even if it doesn't benefit our bottom line. And so other options that we can't provide you, but that will work just as well is the IUD with hormone, the implant. And the implant actually has a metabolite of desogestrel. So if desogestrel works well for you, the implant might work well for you. But I've heard a lot of people have breakthrough bleeding, but that might be because they're Caucasian. I don't know. We'll have to study that. And then the other thing is if you're 30 and over, I would recommend the 1-year vaginal ring, but you probably should try the 1-month vaginal ring for 3 months. And if you like that,
is that the thing you put in?
Yeah, it's a ring and you just put it in. It doesn't matter which way it goes, as long as it's in your vagina, it delivers medicine. And then the 1-month ring, you can just change it once a month and never bleed. Or if you like to bleed, you can take it out after 3 weeks, bleed for a week, and then put a new one in after. But again, why bleed? Why waste blood and tampons,
No, now that I understand the bleeding part of it, I'm like, no, I don't have to bleed anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you really quickly to Sarah. This is also comforting. There really are too many myths about the buildup that happens when you skip your period. LOL. So thanks, Sarah, for joining in. And hopefully, we were able to answer some questions regarding like birth control, how it is in like the Philippines. And, if Jeanne, if you have any other questions, we're happy to feature you, maybe even do like an Instagram live to continue on, or do a future collaboration. And with that being said, thank you again for your time today. Thank you, Dr. Jeanne, for your time.
Thank you, Angela, head of marketing.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I learned so much. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, we really try our hardest to be very educational to help women, because this is like, Rhea mentioned in the comments, it's so taboo. A lot of the time people don't talk about it enough. And so we want to be like the source of accurate information, but also be expert doctors, have expert leaders who talk about this stuff, and that you guys could trust us with your birth control. So for everyone that's watching, make sure you guys use Jeanne's code Jeanne5 for $5 off your online doctor's consult. Also make sure to check out her Instagram, Jeanne Marie, but the E is a 3 on Instagram, and then Leanne.shop, LEANNE.shop. Is Leanne a name of anyone in specifically?
So my husband's name is Lee. And that would have been our little girl's name, but we never the girl never came.
Oh.
Both times we had boys, we weren't ready for any name. So we were always like last minute, what do we name our baby? Because we were so ready for the girl.
Oh.
So now it's our little shop.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And then, make sure you guys all subscribe. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.